If you've made it this far, but you've been having some computer difficulties with performance perhaps, it's getting laggy, it's just going really slowly, and especially if you've been bringing in assets and this is happening, there are a few ways that you can improve the performance of Unreal at the cost of temporary quality loss. So in your settings at the top of the editor, you'll find this scalability. And this is going to directly impact your performance. So if you're on a low spec computer and you set the quality to low, it will immediately lower the quality of all of the assets and textures in the scene. And so it'll go much, much faster. The trade-off, though, is that everything will look kind of terrible. So when you go to try to screenshot your work, which is, just how you render, it will, what you see on the screen is what you get. So if it looks low quality, that's what your render will be. But one trick you can do is while you're working, you set the settings lower, and then right before you render, you swap over to the cinematic view. The trade-off here is that each time you do a swap, it will need to compile the shaders. So if you've been adding new things. So if I swap to low, it would have to recompile, and then when I switch back to cinematic, if I've been adding in assets, it will need to recompile everything. So it can take a while depending on the quality difference. So just be aware of that. But if you are having difficulties, just keep in mind that you can swap the quality to lower. Additionally, there are these things called LODs. So this will mostly be present on the megascans. For example, maybe I think one of these apples that I have, actually the avocado, I know it does it really bad. So I'm going to scale it up just so you can see it. For sake of example, we'll make it like 10. And you'll notice even at this distance, it's got these sharp edges. But if I get closer to it, you'll see it smooths out and actually even gets the proper texturing on the edge. But just as I slowly zoom out from it, you'll watch as it changes into a lower quality asset. And so how it's doing that, that's the LOD. That's the level of detail, which is a technique used in gaming all the time to be able to include more assets in a scene. So that the computer is only loading them in as you get to a certain distance to them. So it has several different versions of this asset stored in its data, and it is calling the lower resolution ones when you're farther away. And it's just like a strategic technique, and that's how video games that look amazing can run on an Xbox, which is the equivalent computing power of a toaster. So you just gotta be aware that this is happening behind the curtain, and what you can do is you can constrain the LOD settings. So if you're having performance issues, again, this engine scalability settings, if I set it to low, it will lock this at its lowest quality setting. Cinematic will allow it to transition between them. But if you go into a specific asset's settings, you'll notice there is this properties tab here called the LOD settings. And you'll see this avocado has 4 LODs input onto it. So you can lock the LOD to a certain value. And so you'll notice that as you go through the scene builds that I will showcase, I will just automatically lower the LOD to 1. So it'll always be at its highest quality. I find that really useful for composing scenes, and it just looks better on screen. But that's at the cost of a bit of performance. And I'll just give you an example. So I swap these to low. It changes the lighting quality too pretty drastically, but it will run much smoother. Another thing you can do is in your viewport you can turn off real time. So between those two changes, and you can also even just show the FPS, right? So this will show you exactly what your performance level is. 120 is what Unreal is capped at. So most hardware can't even get to 120 FPS on display. If you want to control specific properties of the different LODs, you would come into the LOD picker menu at the top of this details panel, and you can even remove specific LODs if you're getting performance issues. In general, though, I would recommend just sticking to editing the engine scalability settings and then actually maximizing the LODs out. So you just change the LOD number down to 1 and hit apply changes, and now it will be locked at its maximum quality.